Good morning and warm welcome to Latvia and its capital, Riga. In about a couple of minutes, we'll be ready to start our opening speeches. But before that, I'd like to give some announcements and have your full attention to them. Since it is a Health and Safety Conference, and it's also organized by the State Labor Inspectorate of Latvia, we have some internal tradition we would like to extend also to this conference. So let us start with safety announcement. Alarm training is not planned today or tomorrow. In case of alarm, you have to leave the conference room and go to the left. If the alarm surprises you while dining in a restaurant, please evacuate through the special restaurant evacuation doors. In case of alarm and it's happened to be in a main hall, you have to evacuate through the main entrance. You will be guided to the meeting point, which is in a parking area just opposite street of the Elizabeth Street of this hotel. So, my second announcement goes for communication. And interpretation today is provided in 4 languages: English, French, German, and Latvian. The channels you see on a screen. For moderators and speakers, if you speak too fast or away from the microphone, be aware that the message might not reach the audience quite well. So keep that in mind. If you are active in social media, here on a screen and also on the walls, you see a special hashtags for today's event. Use them and your message may reach wider audiences. Finally, I'm not requesting to you to switch off your mobile phones, as I hope you will be actively using them with sharing your views and messages, but please turn them down to the silent mode so we can really enjoy the conference and the messages from the speakers. Now then, we are ready for opening remarks from our distinguished guests, and we start with the Minister of Welfare of the Republic of Latvia. Dear Mr. Augulis, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to address you today in Riga, shortly before the International Labour Protection Day, at the conference organized by Latvian Presidency. Last year, the European Commission published the EU Strategic Framework on Occupational Safety and Health at Work from years 2014 till 2020. The framework is a good, solid base for further development of occupational safety policy, both in the Member States and the EU in general. Occupational safety as regards occupational safety is one of the priorities of the agenda of the Latvian presidency. I am glad that this March the Council of Employment and Social Policy Ministers agreed on the Council's conclusions suggested by Latvian presidency as regards occupational safety. The conclusions put an emphasis on new challenges of occupational environment, including introduction of occupational safety requirements pertaining to micro and small-sized companies, also prevention of occupational diseases and new risk factors, including aging of the workforce. However, any policy is successful only if the involved parties are actively involved in its implementation. This conference intends to target exactly this aspect: efficient implementation of the policy to achieve a situation where the workforce does not sustain any injuries at work and their workplaces do not harm their health. It is a popular misconception that occupational safety implies legislatory requirements that are difficult to understand and formal and boring tasks. For this reason, we have to find modern and innovative ways for making occupational safety simple, understandable, and exciting, taking into account the interests of various target groups. It will promote the understanding of employers and employees about occupational safety, and it will motivate involvement in building of safe occupational environment. At the same time, we have to follow the time. In other words, we have to use the latest technologies and communication means. For example, we could use actively the social networks, create interactive games, mobile applications, and various systems based in the electronic environment. It will allow us to disseminate information to broader society, as well as it will enable the employer and other involved parties to understand the requirements of occupational safety. It has been already proved that interactive activities are efficient. As an example, I would like to mention the Occupational Environment Risks Electronic Assessment Project, OIRA, launched by European Agency for Safety and Health. Also, Latvia was successfully involved in the project. By help of the European Social Fund, there was a computer game devised for use explaining occupational safety issues. And also, I would like to emphasize the importance of experience and good practice exchange, both on the national and international level. In Latvia, we have had a very successful initiative of video films, which are shown to occupational safety experts. While watching these films, the experts for occupational safety share their experience, they discuss what they have seen. I'm truly glad that the campaign for healthy workplaces manage stress by European Agency for Safety and Health. Today, we will honor the companies that have implemented innovative measures for elimination of stress and psychosocial risk factors. The psychosocial factors are very difficult to define. Most of the companies do not pay any attention to the issue. Nevertheless, the occupational diseases and health disturbances based on psychosocial risks are on the rise. For this reason, it is important that the companies awarded Good Practice Awards are ready to share their experience. Their example will definitely inspire the companies in Latvia and the European Union member states and increase understanding of occupational safety. During the conference, you will be able to get acquainted with various other new initiatives. I am convinced that each of you will receive a good idea that you will be able to use in further work. We have to promote joint work so that every employee in the European Union has a safe workplace. I wish you many ideas and a conference full of many experiences and ideas. Thank you.
Paldies, Auguļkungs, par tiešām ļoti tiešo un visaptverošo vēstījumu.
Thank you, Mr. Augulis, for your introductory speech. You pointed out what we have already achieved and also you drew our attention to the fact.
Represented by Mr. Jordi Curell Gotor, Director for Employment, Social Legislation, Social Dialogue, for opening statements. Mr. Gotor, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a real honor for me to be here in my first conference on health and safety since I took this new position. I would like to thank Minister Augulis and the Presidency, the Latvian Presidency, for having organized this conference and for their very active involvement in EU matters, as they are very active in social dialogue, in all kinds of areas related to labor law and social affairs. I would also like to thank Director Zlatstek for being here and for contributing to this conference. And of course, I would like to address to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. So it's very important. I think that this conference is a very timely one, and I think it's a very good initiative from the Latvian presidency. And let me tell you why I think that it's very timely. First of all, as you all know, we have been witnessing recently, in the past 5 years, a deterioration in working conditions all across the EU. You are all aware, of course, of the results of the Eurobarometer survey of last year, where we have one piece of good news and one piece of less good news. The piece of good news, I would say, is that there's 77% of EU workers who declared themselves to be satisfied with their own working conditions. However, there was a majority of them, 57 of them, who thought that such conditions had deteriorated over the last 5 years. And this is something that we have to address. This is something, in my view, which can be explained for a number of reasons. One of them, of course, being the crisis. And we have to make sure, first of all, that we have an active role in promoting good working conditions, and this will entail cooperation between all of us, Commission, Member States, social partners, and all the actors in this area of health and safety. And secondly, we have to make sure that now, when we get out of the crisis, not only we get out of the crisis, of the economic crisis, but that we make sure as well that working conditions improve and they go up again as they were going before the crisis. The second reason why this conference is timely is, of course, because it's almost 1 year ago that the Commission presented the strategic framework on health and safety at work. Minister Augulis has referred to it, and one of the main elements of this framework is that it is launching positive dynamics as regards occupational safety and health. We have seen many institutions, EU institutions, the Council, the Economic and Social Committee, the Committee of the Regions, the Parliament will soon adopt a report on it as well, getting more involved in this area. And this is fundamental, and this shows that indeed occupational safety and health is now high in the political agenda, not just at the EU level, but also at national level. So this conference will provide us a very good opportunity to discuss, to share information, and to debate with you, with the main stakeholders, about the ongoing implementation of this strategic framework, which will contribute, I know, to a positive and increasing sense of sharing and ownership, because I guess that health and safety at the workplace, and a fundamental element of it, is the ownership of all those involved in order to make sure that we apply the right standards. So we will be discussing with many of you, my colleagues, colleagues from the agency, colleagues from all across Europe, will be presenting where we stand. Let me call your attention to a couple of, to 3 things, I would say. The first thing is that we attach, as in the Commission, and I know we are not alone on that, a fundamental importance to the improvement of the workplace conditions. And we know that this is something that is very close to the heart of all of us here, and we know that it will require a relentless effort. And we'll have to make sure that we combine all the tools that we have at our disposal in order to make sure that we have an impact in improving these standards. And when I refer to all the tools, of course, I refer to legislation, but I also refer to soft law. I also refer to information campaigns, and I also refer to communication. And I think to this respect, the program of this conference, which is a very innovative program, I would say, especially tomorrow, we will be discussing with you a number of initiatives in the area of information and communication, which in my view could have an important impact in terms of improving these standards. Now, in order to have a good framework and a good rules that contribute to enhancing these working conditions, we need to have good legislation. And in order to have a quality legislation, I think that on the first hand, we have the strategic framework, which I guess it's important because it does show the way forward in the sense that it clearly advocates for refocusing the attention from accidents at work to occupational diseases such as cancers, occupational cancers, lung diseases, or other chronic conditions. And this should set the framework for further action. And then very importantly, because we have the REFIT initiative. And the REFIT initiative, of course, is aiming at improving and enhancing the quality of our legislation. Legislation will only be applied if it's a legislation of quality. Therefore, the principle of REFIT, which is evaluate first, is fundamental in all areas where we legislate, but even more in this area of health and safety, where we need to have a very in-depth knowledge on the properties of chemical, of biological or physical agents, and their epidemiological and toxic effects. So again, through this REFIT approach, we will make sure that our legislation is of a better quality and therefore it will be easier to apply. That would be the first principle. What do we do in order to improve our standards and our working conditions? The second is enforcement, and of course it's very much linked. In order for the rules to be efficient and to have an impact, they need to be well enforced. And enforcement will only be possible, first of all, if there is a clear action on the side of the Commission on the one hand, of national authorities, on Labour Inspectorate, etc. But it will only work if the rules are clear and easy to apply. And they will have to take into account a number of difficult issues. Of course, we know that there are sectors like agriculture or fishing where it's more difficult, or where we see that this legislation is applied maybe not in an optimal manner. We know about micro and small firms, and I think that the Minister referred to it as well. So we have to make sure that the legal framework that we construct, that we already have and that we'll have to improve, takes into account all these aspects in order for it to be really applied and therefore that we can enforce the rules. Otherwise, we might have a very nice piece of legislation on paper. If it is not applied, it will not have any kind of impact. And the third thing is the active involvement of all stakeholders. It is very clear that it will not just be public authorities. It is very clear that it will not be just the social partners. It is very clear that it will not only be enforcement authorities. We'll have to work together and to make sure that we pull in the same direction with a common goal. This goal being, of course, to improve the working conditions of the workforce. Therefore, we have to tap on existing structures. We have, of course, the Advisory Committee on Safety and Health at Work. They are very active, and they are helping us very much in all the areas of health and safety, and recently, very particularly, on the evaluation that we are carrying out, and which will help us to set the future direction of our action in this area. We have as well the Senior Labour Inspection Committee, where the key stakeholders are also represented, and which are also contributing to the implementation of the strategic framework. And then, of course, we have the EU agencies, and in particular the Bilbao agency, who are playing a fundamental role in disseminating the information, in doing research, and in helping us as well in order to make sure that we fix not only the right objectives, but that we mobilize the right tools in order to attain these objectives. Therefore, I would think that the program which is proposed by our hosts in this conference is a very appropriate one. I'm sure that we will learn a lot from you today and tomorrow, and I hope that you will learn from us as well, and that together we'll make sure that, thanks to events like this one, we make sure that we improve the working conditions of our fellow workers in Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gotor, for a very encouraging and positive and also supportive opening statement and setting the challenges that are ahead of us, and we should all do it jointly. Now, less than 1 week ago, as it was also mentioned by our minister, there was a meeting here in Riga, informal meeting of ministers of labor and social affairs. And in this meeting, a crucial role of social dialogue was stressed for wage setting, inclusive growth, and other challenges. It was stated in this meeting as well that effective social dialogue facilitates employability and job quality. And there could be no social dialogue, of course, without social partners. Therefore, with a great pleasure, I'd like to introduce our social partners, representing employers and employees, to give their opening statements for this conference. Let us start with Mr. Kris de Meester, Chairman of Health and Safety Working Group of Business Europe, Union of Industrial and Employers Confederation of Europe. Please, Mr. de Meester, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. As you can see, I brought a hard copy of my speaking notes. So a very warm welcome also on my behalf. Dear colleagues, friends, I can also say it's good for me to be back in Riga, and that I once again can say, Man patik Riga. Actually, I'm very happy with this conference team picked by the Latvian presidency, because if you look at the title, it means that we don't need to have endless discussions here about what we are going to do. No refit talks, no talks about new carcinogens directive, no ergonomics legislation talks. Now the focus is on not on the what, but on the how we are going to improve occupational safety and health at workplaces. And what is more, on how to do that in a simple and, if possible, entertaining way. So I will be, in my opening speech, be positive, I will be positive, and I will focus on what works or what can work. Because if there is one thing that I have learned throughout the Managed Stress campaign, it is that if you have to focus on negative things, things you don't like, things you are not convinced of, things that you are not really good at, it will consume energy. It will not give you energy. But if you can work in a positive way, doing things that work, doing things that help, the things you are good at, you will get energy from that. And that means for both employers and workers, we have to integrate occupational safety and health in the way they do business, in the way they work, as close as possible to their everyday reality. And we have to do it step by step, not with overambitious, unreachable targets, not by defining a company safety culture that you will probably never reach, but by focusing on the smallest executable steps, one step at a time. And of course, make sure you associate the employers and the workers with the choices and the changes to be made. Involvement is key. So back to today's program. It's always a pleasure to speak when there is an award ceremony in the event, because it means that we have found once again evidence that businesses and organizations, employers and workers, brought to practice, implemented the campaign theme. It's not like life on Mars, no. Good practice examples are found everywhere. So we have found proof that you can manage psychosocial risks, that you can manage stress in the real world. And that makes me proud. And on behalf of Business Europe and its member federations, I already now congratulate all the award winners and the organizations that push them to do so, with a special mention of the agency, its staff, and the people from the focal points. OSH can indeed be simple and entertaining. I am convinced of that. Of course, entertaining is one thing. It should also be effective, lead to results in an efficient way. OSH brought in an entertaining way also comes with opportunities. Allow me to share with you the experience in Flanders from the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium with the TV comedy show Safety First. Later on in the debate, I will maybe try to show you some examples of the show, because although it's humor, the actors are real heroes now in Flanders. And there are a lot of gadgets that come out of the series. There are safety helmets with the logo of Safety First, there are gloves, etc., etc. First, it was hard to make all workers wear their helmet all the time. Now they would simply love it if it has the Safety First logo on it. Evacuation exercises, you always had those people who stay in the room and say, again an exercise. Now it's fun because of the TV series. It's a bit a pity, of course, that it is limited to the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium, Flanders, because health and safety in Belgium is the competency of the federal government. So we really miss an opportunity here to benefit from the success, to use the series to get more attention, to make OSH attractive in an entertaining way. That's a pity. So I and my employer colleagues with me, in fact, I guess all of you, hope to learn more today and tomorrow and get to discover opportunities, other opportunities in this field. Because in the end, we are in this together. We need to collaborate for a good and sustainable results. And my final statement, I couldn't resist. After all, I am me. OSH can be simple and entertaining, but why do then we put so much effort in turning it into something complicated and boring? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kris, indeed, for this very positive, direct, and a bit provocative opening speech. I think we are all looking forward for your participation in panel discussion. I wonder if someone will pick up the latest statement you made. And last but not least, I'd like to ask Mr. Józef Niemiec, Deputy Director Secretary from the European Trade Union Confederation, for introductory words. Mr. Niemiec, please, the floor is yours.
Monsieur le ministre, Monsieur le directeur, Mesdames et Messieurs, j'ai profité de cette opportunité de pouvoir parler une autre langue que l'anglais. Je vais, au nom des travailleurs européens, essayer d'être aussi positif, mais aussi mettre au défi et être provocatif comme mon prédécesseur. Donc, d'abord, je voudrais vraiment remercier la présidence et les institutions, la Commission, d'avoir organisé cette conférence, parce que la question de santé, de la vie des travailleurs, est vraiment au cœur du travail de n'importe quel syndicaliste. Je le suis depuis longtemps, ça se voit. Et j'ai mené beaucoup de batailles, moi, et avec mes collègues, autour de ces sujets-là, partout où nous sommes en fonction, comme les collègues qui sont aussi dans la salle. Et aussi, le choix de la date pour cette conférence, pour nous, est très important, parce que ça coïncide avec la journée internationale des travailleurs victimes, morts ou qui ont perdu la santé au travail, qui a été instaurée par la Confédération internationale des syndicats il y a des années, à laquelle la Confédération européenne participe depuis longtemps. C'est demain. Donc, ceci, pour nous aussi, symboliquement, est très important. Et en Europe, c'est vrai, nous avons des standards élevés, et on a aussi des résultats. Il y a beaucoup moins d'accidents qu'ailleurs dans le monde, surtout si on compare avec les pays éloignés comme la Chine, mais aussi les pays voisins, comme l'Ukraine. Donc, on se rend compte des progrès qui ont été faits en Europe.
We do understand the progress that has been achieved in the European Union. As other colleagues, we do participate in decision-taking on a EU level. Let's say when we talk about the goals established for Polish colleagues or colleagues of other countries, the social standards which are to be achieved in this area are important for the country to be integrated into the European Union. We all know, but I have to emphasize once again how many new risks we are facing, and there are many documents that talk about these new risks, like documents about cancerous substances, other harmful substances. Strategy on issues like these is of paramount importance, because in practice we can improve the situation. The strategic framework is a must-have item, but practice and implementation also matters. Here I agree to my colleagues who back the employers and employees in the sense that there must be a strategic framework in place. There are new risks, new and emerging risks that have to be identified. Moreover, we have to identify the risks that are present and also identify the new ones. The strategy, the European Union strategy is to pass new laws and instruments that would help to curb the risks and protect the workforce more. In the present situation, we see that more than 1,000 employees die from cancer caused by contact with substances causing cancer. Then we will have such cases more and more, even over 150,000. There are good standards which are being elaborated in various countries. We have instruments to tackle the problem. What we are asking for improvement of the instruments that limit the time which the person has contact with the cancerous substances with. If there is such a document that would limit the time frame a person can spend with cancerous substances, it could improve the situation among employers. Let's say if there is one labor law governing the employers, then I would be very positive about development of things in future. Some member states that have undertaken the initiative to expand the list of dangerous chemical substances will proceed with it. I know that EPSCO Council will also pass its decisions on the dangerous substances. Health protection and occupational safety, these issues could be considered as investments in future. At the same time, we have to acquire various control instruments so that the laws and norms are complied with. We have emphasized the role of the social partners in the process. My colleagues today and tomorrow, I hope, will participate actively in the discussions, but I'm speaking from the viewpoints of Employers' Confederation. Our organizations with which we cooperate, and in terms of information we provide, we have supplied lots of experts on health and safety issues. As to the time frame, we have established a list of the most harmful substances. The list is made use of and practiced by various companies and institutions. We would like to make use of the opportunity and send to the Minister the list of the most harmful substances we have identified for the government to think about it. The list can be disputed. Nevertheless, we consider it as our input in the discussion on health and safety issues. We will discuss these issues today, and also we will proceed tomorrow. Ms. Bernadette Segal will discuss the issue in the European Parliament with the President of the Parliament. We consider that the topic is a very important one, not because there is a a special day when we commemorate employees, but to increase capacity and to work together with all the partners. We involve all the partners, the agencies, everybody we can, employers including. We have achieved lots of agreements with various professional organizations working in various fields. The aim put forward by European Trade Union Confederation is to gain momentum with the ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Niemiec, for your very straightforward statement. I shall close the introductory session now and hand over the microphone to Ms. Brenda O'Brien from European Agency for Safety and Health at Work. But before I do so, there is some valuable information I'd like to deliver to you. As you may have noticed in the morning, there is a game room next to this conference room, where you will find various entertaining stuff that will probably show a new ways how to get our message across. And you may try it out during the breaks. There's also a calculator of occupational accident costs. And the one person who will get the most precise calculation will be also awarded at the end of the day. And I have heard it will be a money award. So be active. The presentations of today's conference, as well as the movies and also good practice examples from the companies, you will find in your memory sticks you received during the registration. Memory sticks, in fact, have two outputs. One which is working for your computers, and the second one you can also use for your smartphones. Finally, during the break, you'll hear a bell ringing. And in case you hear it, you know that it is time to return to the conference seat, and as we are ready to start the conference. Now I hand over the stage and microphone to Brenda, as we are ready to start our Good Practice Award ceremony. So Brenda, please, the stage is yours.